Hey, so how's it going? Getting my mojo going. I've had more or less a non-eventful day. I got some housework done. I actually tuned into the Go Live for Pathways today, and I actually won a free book, which is pretty cool. I ended up winning the Tarot Elements 5 Readings to Reset Your Life. So I think this is one of those things that I may end up covering. I don't know. I know that we have our book club, so it may be one of those things where I'll integrate a bit of this maybe into what we're reading about with Ruli's story, which we're taking it nice and slow each week with a different card. But I think this would be neat. It'd be kind of like, I don't know. I know me and Honor have been thinking for some time about changing the name of our group, because it's not really a bunch of people reading the same thing. It's more like tarot story time or something. I don't know if that resonates with me as much, but you know, she and I, we run that group, so it would be a decision we'd make together. But I saw my friend Karen today. So during her Go Live, sorry, I brought my Coke back with me. What was it? I saw this beautiful stone here, which is the first time I've heard of it. It's a bronzite. And it's really like, this wouldn't do it justice, but if you were here with me, we would flip it over and I'd have you look at the colors. It's really reflective, really pretty. And of course I had to snag it because you guys know I'm a fan of birds in general. So like when me and Tennille met in person, which was totally by accident at the zoo, go figure it was in the birdhouse of all places. So me and my daughter have that in common. We love birds. So when I saw a little owl on this, and I'm like, oh man, I didn't really need more stuff, right? Like, but as far as collecting various rocks and crystals, this is one I don't have, and I would have regretted not getting it, so I'm glad I got it. But I ended up getting this really cool deck. Because like many of you know, I did recently leave my nursing job, which I'm okay with. It was not a good environment for me. I knew I had to get this deck when Karen did her Go Live today. And it had the Medicine Woman. And one of the lines that resonated with me, which this is Witch, Woman in Total Control of Herself, is the name of the deck that it comes from. I would highly recommend this deck, by the way. It's an Oracle deck by Angie Solins, and art is by Silas Tobal. It's really cool. Hi, Chris. It's good to see you on here. How are you doing? Feel free to let me know, and I'll check out the comments. Look at the book that comes with this. I mean, it is just like beautiful. But what really resonated with me is, like many of us have Karen as a friend when we go to Pathways and all this. When she pulled the card for the Medicine Woman, it was a line out of the book that was alluding to doing some healing. And it's about going where you're celebrated. It's not repetitively going somewhere where you're tolerated. And when she said that this morning, I felt like that so resonated with me. And I'm like, yes, like I totally need that deck, you know. But I try to hold this a certain way because of the way that the light reflects on this. But it's so beautiful. And this is the inside. It comes with this mesh green bag. Like, isn't that just beautiful? So if you guys would want me to do a show and tell another time with this Oracle deck, I could totally do that. But it's just beautiful, right? So it's definitely already one of my favorites. And I'm totally keeping this card on my altar space because, you know, I'm totally going through that transition of finding a job that, you know, I feel supported at honestly. So that's kind of like a work in progress. I've got different things going with that, you know, with interviews and stuff. So, other than that, really, that's the gist of it. Nothing too crazy. Let's see. Oh, and let me turn my computer back on here because I want to make sure I pull up my Go Live so I can see comments. And of course, feel free to tell me how you're doing because, as always, I love to find out what's up with you guys and your thoughts on things. As always. Very cool. So my daughter, she paints. She made this as a bookmark, and it's got two of my cats on it, Hermione and Loki. And I keep this as one of my bookmarks. But my kid, she's 15 years old, and she's always painting or drawing something new, you know. So I'm still recuperating pretty well from my cold. I haven't had to take any more medicine for the past. Today makes 2 days. So I think I'm past that, thank goodness. But every so often, I will take a swig of my Coke just to have that carbonation go and rip down my throat. It's going to help me talk, you know. And of course, I see my hubby's on here. Hi, Tim. So I figured, since we're about to do the Qualities of Leo spread from Sasha Graham's 365 tarot spreads, that I needed a cat-themed deck. So I am using this one, Cats Rule the Earth Tarot, and it's by Thiago Correa and Catherine Davidson, and it says it's for the feline obsessed. So I think this will be fun. It will totally complement the read we're about to do tonight, you know? And I really think that's the cool thing. Once you learn, you don't have to know all the meanings to the cards. You know, again, it's more important to be an intuitive reader. But once you kind of get the hang of them, even if you get something unorthodox, you can think back to that classic Rider-Waite-Smith and be like, oh, wait, I remember this image in my head from the OG, the classic. Look at the other card and be able to tie the two together, you know? Or like I always tell people, you know, feel free to, you know, have a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which I really like the Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith. You can always pull that card out or get you a book with the cards and the meanings as you're learning tarot. Because you know our group, we've got the people in our group who are curious, and who are here because they're supportive of me, my friends and family. And then people who are learning, and then we have seasoned readers. We've got all sorts here in our group, you know. So, send a little bit your way. All right, cool. So I got my incense going. So let's see here. So the Qualities of Leo spread. So this is as of July 23rd. So we're going back a little bit. It says, on this day, today marks the first day of the sign of Leo. So I remember when we were around that time frame. And then there's this whole thing with the Lion's Gate. I was having to ask our friend Honor for more information about that because recently, with how that was August 8th, that was the first time I'd ever heard about Lion's Gate. I did not know what it was other than obviously having something to do with Leo because of the lion. And so she shared what she understood about it. And I'm in no way, like, astrology's not my jam. I do not have a desire to learn the ins and outs of everything with astrology. Because to do so, I think would be rather time consuming unless you guys have a reference to share that would pretty well simplify something as massive as astrology. I think to my humble knowledge base, it's a science. And so there would be a lot to learn with that. But basically, in a very layman's and simple way of putting it, the stars and the planets aligned, and on August 8th, was like this day for manifestation and determining, like, having that self-confidence to be like, you know, this is where I want to go, whether it be, you know, your relationships, career, what have you, and to really manifest your intents as far as, like, putting one foot in front of the other with that. And so I figured let's do the qualities of Leo spread. Better late than never, you know, especially being today's the 10th. It's only like 2 days afterward. A summation of the spread says this spread is based on the essential qualities of Leo: generosity, warmth, expansiveness, artistry, self-confidence, authority, self-discipline, magnetism, and a brave and calm demeanor. So I think a lot of those are very good descriptors for people with Leo energy. And Sasha Graham says to cast your cards. She says to cast in the shape of the Leo symbol or glyph looking like a lion's tail. We're doing a total of 10 cards for this spread. My altar has limited space. I always say that. I'm to a point where I need to kind of take my altar apart a bit and do some cleaning, because I do quite a bit of work up here and it's just got all sorts of stuff. So even so though, I'd still want it to where you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'll hold up her book so you can see the shape she did with this, but I'm just probably going to do 5 and 5 so we get our 10 in. And so let's see. She says Leo's ruling planet is the sun. Golden yellow is the primary color. Even though, I hate to be a stickler, but it's the nerd in me. So the sun is a star, and it is not a planet. I don't know astrology, but I do know the sun is considered a star. And at one point in time, we may be dead by then. The sun is supposed to explode. It will probably take the earth out with it. But again, I appreciate the info Sasha's provided. So I'm not trying to nitpick this apart, but I read that and I'm thinking, oh man. So if y'all know something different from me, please share it with me. But to my understanding, the sun is a star, not a planet. But Sasha says that Leo's ruling planet is the sun. Golden yellow is the primary color. The lucky day is Sunday. And the best location for success is any place outside. Leo rules the 5th house of the zodiac, governing creativity, procreation, and recreation. And she's got a picture of the Strength card from the Major Arcana. And she says the Strength card features an image of a lion and always represents the use of gentle persuasion over brute force. It is a card of extreme power and control. So, and if you guys have this book, it is page 212 is what we'll be doing the spread from. But you can kind of see the shape that Sasha Graham used, you know. Again, I just love how thorough she is with her books. This is, again, probably the best book I've seen with spreads in it, you know. So, again, I highly recommend it. Llewellyn does have a pretty good sale going on right now. If you need a tarot deck or you want to like add on to your collection, feel free. I added their link to their website into our group. This book is on sale, so you could snag that up in addition to a deck you might have been wanting, you know. They've got tarot and oracle decks, all sorts of books, journals, you name it. Tarot bags, basically anything tarot related, you know. So I'm going to go ahead and move my book over. And my hubby says, long time no see. I know, honey. I just saw you a short time ago for supper. You are correct about the sun. Okay, cool. Because I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Miss Graham, because I love her work, you know. So I'm just going to move this over. And then I'm going to point my camera down. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and take my deck, which this is how the back of the cards look. Isn't that beautiful? Like, I love it. I love just skulls in general. It's just, I don't know. Just really cool. But then again, I guess who among us doesn't like skulls, you know? So I'm just going to get a little bit of a shuffle in on these cards. And basically I'm asking of Source, which each of us, the Source may be defined differently, and that's totally okay. What does our group need to know with this spread based on this energy, this Leo energy, and this whole thing with Lionsgate that just occurred? And that felt good, so I'm going to run with it. I'm going to go ahead and put down a total of 10 cards. Okay, and I'm going to set these aside. All right, so with this is the first row. Remember that you guys have a mirror image of what I actually have. So this is the first card. I will be working from left all the way to right for the first row. So that would be the first 5 questions. Okay, and then I will hop down to the second row, starting with this card, and then that would be 6 through 10, working from left to right. Okay, I'm just watching my camera here. And you guys are totally getting my Pioneer Woman PJs that I got at Walmart. I do highly recommend. They're well worth it, very comfortable to be in. So if you guys need PJs, totally check out her line. They're really good. So the first question we have is, in what way can I be more generous? I'm going to go ahead and actually flip these over. Oh, cool. We got some interesting ones. All right. So with this question, I'll have you guys look at this card and think about the question that Sasha Graham is asking us. In what way can I be more generous? I want you to take a moment and reflect, and feel free to drop it into the commentary, what this card means to you. We know that it's a major arcana card, okay? So this is the 11th card, and what we have here is this beautiful black cat, and we're looking at scales that are in balance. And then there's the sword that's pretty well planted into the ground, and there's this red drape behind our cat, and then we have these pillars. Okay, which is a very reminiscent of, say, the High Priestess. You know that she has the same pillars in her card as well. And she's protecting info that people generally have to work hard for. That's why there's a curtain there, you know. And so to reflect on what we're being asked, in what way can I be more generous, I would say it would be looking at maybe having more balance, which is obvious here, but maybe not being so quick to take the sword up out of, say, the ground, holding it totally upright, and making these definitive decisions on people. I think we're all guilty, including myself, of making these very quick decisions based on the information we have or first impressions we get of people or situations. And then we may say or do something that we regret, and then in retrospect you think about it and you wish that maybe it would have turned out a bit differently, or you think of how you could have done or said something differently, you know. So I think it's about, how do I put this? It's being kind to ourselves. We certainly, you know, unfortunately, when we make these decisions, there are consequences. So we certainly have cause and effect. We do have to answer to the effects of the judgments that we make on a daily basis. It can be very stressful, right? But for me, when I look at this card, I focus very much on this sword. And our friend here, who's looking directly at us and looks to be very comfortable in that position, just, you know, sitting there, looking directly at us, they're not at all concerned about this sword that's planted in the ground. And I think it shows the need to be generous with others as far as with our time. Maybe not talking, because the swords, when we look at swords, it's all about thought processes, communication, action. Maybe instead of doing as much talking and action, it's just simply being present and listening to somebody for whatever they're presenting at face value. We don't have to like or agree with it, but we're giving them the gift of our time by listening to them while maintaining a safe space, maintaining pretty good eye contact, being mindful, of course, of cultural differences. Not every culture is going to want you to stare at them directly on. They might take that as disrespectful. But that's what I get when I look at this card. Feel free to drop if you guys see something different. And I feel like if we give people that gift, which is a form of generosity, maybe this curtain will continue to go down a bit more to where we can not only learn more about ourselves in relation to others, but to be a bit more patient and forgiving, to where we're not carrying this baggage. Because again, like I've said with many go lives, we are going to screw up. We're humans and we're good at that, and it's expected. But we surely don't want to continue to carry the weight and the burden of our past failures and mistakes, which are lessons, right? So I like that we got this as our first card for that question. And of course, I'm keeping an eye on my comments in case you guys have anything to add. So we're about to go to our second card, which is, where should I extend my warmth and love? I love that we got this card. 5 of Pentacles, guys. I want you to look at this again like we're doing tonight. Take it in for a minute and think about Sasha's question. Where should I extend my warmth and love? Take in this card. Look at not only the cat, but what's going on in the background, which is such a nod to the Rider-Waite-Smith card, the classic one, right? This poor cat is outside on a cold, snowy day. It appears to be outside a church, and we have this beautiful stained glass. There's probably food and warmth and security inside if only this little guy is brave enough to maybe scratch at the front door of the church and see if someone lets him in and takes pity on him. But at the same time, it feels very vulnerable and afraid. And maybe it's worried about not being accepted by the people in the church and feeling even worse than what it already does, right? We've all been there. I can recall times in my life where in my marriage, my husband and I early on had to scrape by all the way back to when my kids were babies and they needed warm clothing for the winter. And I was a new nurse back then. I sold my wedding and engagement rings. In addition to these 2 little heart pendants I had on a necklace, I sold them too to get money for my children to make sure that they had warm clothing. And I remember the guy at the pawn shop, he told me, for whatever reason, he asked me, well, why are you doing this? And I told him it's for my children. And he said, I'll give you a little bit more than what I generally would because of why you're doing it. And honestly, I've had no regret since then because I knew my babies were warm and taken care of. I've also had times during my marriage where my husband and I needed a washer and dryer. And we never, ever asked my father-in-law for anything because he's our elder. But my father-in-law stepped up and he's like, I'll lend you the money. He went with us to Best Buy. He's like, I'll help you get a washer and dryer and he can pay me back. And we certainly did pay him back because, again, he's our elder. And that's just the way that my husband and I were brought up. We would never take from our elders in that way. But we have certainly been outside the church and feeling like, oh my gosh, how are we going to scrape by and pay the bills and make stuff work and put food on the table? And you're reaching out to your support system. and asking for help. And honestly, sometimes it's the hardest thing is to ask for help. So with this question, where should I extend my warmth and love? I would say it would be willing to be vulnerable with others and ask for help, because we all need it sometimes. And it's totally okay. Life is not easy by any, stretch of the imagination. So it's good to be able to ask people like, hey, my mental health's not great, or some medical condition's not great. Can you help me? I'm in a really rough spot. And then, of course, with that energy exchange that we've talked about in previous Go Lives, you always want to make sure you return the energy and return the favor. That way, there is, again, kind of revisiting this card, we maintain a balance. When somebody does something nice for us, we do it back in kind. So I like that we've gotten these 2 cards so far. I'm going to take a swig of Coke here, just to keep my throat all nice and slickened up here. I really like this deck, though. It's different. So our 3rd card, which will be this one, would be, in what direction is my life expanding? We have the 9 of Pentacles. Now, I want you guys to think back briefly as you're looking at this and what you intuitively see with this card. The difference between the 9 and the 10 of Pentacles is, with the 9, we generally have a beautiful lady. She's out in a garden and she's enjoying the fruits of her labor, also known as the lush card, right? This is what that is. The difference between the 9 and, say, the 10 of Pentacles, the 10 is where you've got multiple generations of family and pets, and they're not even paying attention to the pentacles around them. And they're very much in a happy environment, right? To where they're not worried about the pentacles. They've got that stability. So that's the difference between the 9 and the 10. Now, to answer Sasha's question, in what direction is my life expanding? I would say that it would be that we're seeing a payoff from the seeds that we've planted early on in, say, the Pentacle journey. Whether it be with your finances, relationships, career, you're seeing more financial freedom to be able to do things. You have been able to invest, maybe put some back in savings. And this is the card to simply enjoy what you have. So even though early on with these other cards, we were talking about asking for help and maintaining a balance, giving people the gift of our time and our presence, I feel like that is a way of taking care of ourselves too. And we grow and become better human beings when we're compassionate and kind to others, which is a form of pentacle energy, because we are earthly. We come from the earth. And so this definitely is something as far as giving back to ourselves, and then again maintaining our own home and being proud of what we've worked for. Because in the background we have a beautiful castle. We've got trees, which is it kind of reminds me of the towers from the moon card, because here's the moon, and instead of towers we've got trees. So for me, when I see this and then there's clouds kind of hovering, I think about how even though things are great and there's good things to be had and enjoyed, right? There's always going to be obstacles and uncertainties down the road, but it's all in how we choose, the key word being choose, how we choose to interact with others, the decisions we make, to do the best we can to navigate these little bumps in our journey. Just knowing that we're going to find our way and be okay. But do you guys see what I see when I look at these things? I think right back to that moon card, And again, the clouds have a little bit of uncertainty here, So, yep. And then, of course, just like the OG card, I love that we've got grapes. So somebody could eat the grapes or even turn them into wine. So there's always something to be grateful for in life. And I really think if we take the time to reflect and be grateful every day for especially the small things, and remember that to somebody else, they wish they would have that, and to be able to give back what we can, again, maintaining a balance. Okay, so balance does come into play with this spread. So the fourth card, how can I best use my artistic gifts? I love the humor of tarot. That's why I'm cackling. We got the devil. I love it. I swear I do. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a challenging question with this card. How can I best use my artistic gifts? So go ahead and check this card out for a moment and intuitively determine, what do you feel? What do you see? How would you answer that question? So when I see this, the devil, like we know, is a sense of feeling bound. And with the classic card from the Rider-Waite-Smith, it's a male and female, they loosely have these chains around their neck. And they choose to be there with the devil because of whatever vice. It could be vanity, power, you name it. They choose to be there. And it's like they love this vice, even though it is not good for them. And they feel very bound and miserable. So with this, when Sasha asks us, how can I best use my artistic gifts? I would say, honestly, it would be to, how do I put this into words with this? I would say to be open with the gifts that you have. And if you feel that you're going to be judged, or if there's something hindering you from expressing your artistic gifts, because everybody has a gift and something unique, then to certainly work through that. Let's loosen and get rid of those chains and get rid of this devil. You could tell them, hey, I know that you've got a job, you're the devil and stuff, and you're hanging out with people and all their vices, but I don't choose to be one of them. And this place is a little too hot for me with all these flames, and there's no paint, there's no crayons or pencils, there's nothing for me to draw on down here. It'd go up in flames anyway. And tell them, embrace what's wrong with you. Again, briefly going back to the Five of Pentacles, not a one of us doesn't have something wrong with us. Me included. We all have issues. Embrace what we need to work on here and get help on. Break these chains and then live up to your potential. Whatever you're good at is probably one of the reasons that you're on this earth, to make a difference. Even if you're not even aware of it yet, there's a reason you're here. So that would take some time and some work, okay? And you may not know where your journey's taking you and where the end game is for everything, which now I'm thinking of the Marvel movies. But you don't have to remain chained unless you want to be, So again, it's asking for help. And again, we keep revisiting balance. And again, when we're open to others about our own issues, that vulnerability, people generally like that. If you're in a safe, supportive space and you're open about whatever issue you're going through, generally speaking, people will help you. The hardest part, honestly, is feeling vulnerable and asking for help. So you see how these cards so far, we keep going back a bit. They do complement and play off each other. So this is interesting. The fifth card asks, in what area of life do I need to exhibit more confidence? We have the Fool. I love that we have this card for this question. And again, I'm going to repeat the question. In what area of life do I need to exhibit more confidence? And I think that we can agree, and I'm included. I mean, I've had so many different nursing jobs. My husband's going to laugh, and my close friends and family will be like, oh, Kat, we totally know you've had so many jobs. For different reasons. I have left them. I've never been fired or anything. But I think for me, I'm a little too good at embracing the full energy because that's my Pisces. I'm a Pisces, so I'm a water sign. And so I'm all about rolling with the changes and being flexible like that. But I think even to me, isn't it kind of scary when you don't have all the details or information and you know you got to take those first steps forward? And yes, you're at this point, you're very optimistic. We do have that illumination and warmth. We've got a little bit of playfulness here with the cat playing with the butterfly. But we have all these mountains, right? We've got obstacles. We've got clouds. We do not have full visibility or understanding about what in the heck we're about to walk into. But see, this little guy, he's going to follow after the butterfly and do it anyway, right? So I'm saying my husband says, and help those in a Five of Pentacles state in whatever manner you can. Exactly. And my husband's commenting back on this card. I love that because we've all been there. We all know how that feels, you know. So I like that we're getting that for this question. In what area of life do I need to exhibit more confidence? And that would be, are we brave enough to start the new journey and have that confidence? You know, yeah, we're working through our issues, and for our whole life we're going to have issues. Not a one of us is perfect, nor we're not meant to be. And like I've said during another Go Live, ideally at the end of our lives, we're going to just roll into that coffin and we're not going to look perfect. We're going to have some scars, some scrapes, tattoos, stretch marks, you name it, but it will be a life well lived. We're not meant to be perfect at all, right? And if anything, these things show character. But it asks us, the Fool does, are we brave enough to start something new? Like, yeah, I like that. I really like that we got that card for that. So I'm going to take another swig of my Coke here and look at my comments. Let's see here. So for the sixth card, we have, how can I exude authority without being bossy? I love this question. Okay, I'm going to hold the card up while I ask it again. How can I exude authority without being bossy? Okay. When I say this with the Eight of Swords, we're generally talking about how we can get inside our own heads. We are our worst enemy. This little cat here has gotten itself loosely wrapped in yarn, playing with the yarn. And it might feel like it's imprisoned because it's surrounded by all these swords and there's its home. But it could simply walk around all this. It could, if it's really careful about it, that little bit of yarn that it's wrapped around right now, it could undo this and be like, you know what? All these swords are not real. Every thought that I think is not real, and being very self-aware of just that's how our minds work. If we don't have all the info, we put in a narrative that may not even exist, right? So just like Pink says in one of her older songs, don't let me get me, okay? So the question being, how can I exude authority without being bossy? When we're in our heads like this and we're feeling vulnerable, we ideally want control over our environment, right? We don't like feeling vulnerable. So say with this energy, if somebody approaches this little guy, she's more than likely going to tell them in a really intense agitated, aggravated manner to leave me alone. Don't you see I got enough going on, But really, she's made something out of nothing. So I think this points to the need to be self-aware when we're having bad days. I know I have anxiety, even though I've never been medically diagnosed with it. I am one of many people in our group who have it. Now, eventually I am. It's been on my to-do list. I'm going to go and I'll see a doctor and I'll see if they can help me with my anxiety more than what I've been doing for years. But I would say if you ever feel like you're in this mindset and you feel very vulnerable and defeated and you feel the need to exert control, and then it might be in your actions and things that you say to others, it might, again, take a moment of just not put the sword in the ground. Don't have that conversation. Don't perform the action. And think through it for a minute. It's easy enough for me to say that because I've not always been able to do that. I'm not on here acting holier than thou because I'm not. But it's being very self-aware and kind to others and ourselves. It's both. And being patient and working our way slowly and progressively as we get away from all these swords that are holding us back. Again, here's the devil. This is a vice, right? Whatever this vice is. So I'm sure you're getting the same thing I'm getting. It was an emergency broadcast. So don't worry if you're having to hop back on. You can always play this back later. But for our friend here, her vice is yarn. She might be a yarn addict. Like, she's always got to have yarn, and she's always possibly even stealing it from Hobby Lobby, Joann's. She's making her way out of the store with this yarn, and she wants to make things with it. But then again, she doesn't have enough money to support this habit. And she wants to be artistic. But now she's feeling bound to her yarn addiction. So just think about that. So again, it's going back to say getting some help. Hey, I'm addicted to yarn. I get inside my head quite often about yarn. Can you help me? Maybe the church has some yarn that they could just give her every so often so she doesn't have to steal and get in trouble and then have these chains, right? And let's see here. And my hubby says, confidence helps exude authority. It's not enough on its own, but it's important. Confidence in yourself inspires others to have confidence in you. So that's true. So like you said, don't let you get you, which actually I have to give Pink, the artist who came up with that song, credit. But it's also, it goes back to the analogy, fake it till you make it. Which I'm all for safety. Look at your policies and protocols wherever you work and ask questions and all that good stuff. But do so, carry yourself with confidence, and then people do tend to follow that. So I do agree with my husband. And both he and I are military veterans, so I get what he's saying with that. So let's see here. Our seventh card would be, how have I become more self-disciplined? And we have the Six of Swords. And I really like that we got this card for this question. So generally speaking, the Six of Swords, it shows a mother and child, and they are being ferried across a body of water. Swords are in the boat with them toward the back, but they are going across, right? With this, our friend, this beautiful little cat here, I love its little dark face and its little paws. It has these swords behind it, all six, and there is a boat, and the water is up and down, up and down. But it's looking at us head on, very directly, and very comfortable, right? It looks very confident despite the chaos behind it, despite just now getting out of the fives, which are all about conflict and chaos in tarot, into, going into the sixes here. It's moving away. It's not taking all these things that happened in the past, because we can't change that anyway. We'll learn from our failures and mistakes, but then moving forward into something, again, looking at that full, that is better for us. And maybe where we were was not supposed to be our door. It should never have opened for us, but it did. We went through it and determined quickly, oh, this is so not the room for me. So with this energy, we're moving past people, places, and things, substances that are not good for us. Going back to our friend and her yarn addiction. And we're getting the help. You know? So I like that. Because again, we don't want to hang out with this guy. So let's see. Our next question would be, let's see. Who am I drawing toward me? And we have strength. I really feel like this resonates with what my husband just said. And I love that we got this card because it's a Leo spread and it's all about this card, this energy. So what we have here is this cat, and it's playfully, it could easily eat this mouse, but it doesn't. And he's got one paw over its tail. And he's just kind of like, this guy's like looking back, like saying, hey, let my tail go. What are you doing? But it doesn't look like he's trying to scurry away or anything like that. So when I look at this, I see the importance of having fun no matter what we do in life. We don't want to take ourselves too seriously. There's times to be serious and other times where you shouldn't be serious, right? And we want to do well in whatever endeavor or relationship we choose to be in. And part of that is by being open, again, giving people the gift of our time and listening, being good, active listeners, asking for help as needed, inviting people over to celebrate with us. We have all this great stuff, our own unique gifts, and even tangible material things. Let's share the wealth, right? And so when I see this, I just see the need just to be playful and also to be confident. Like my husband was talking about, if you exude confidence, then people will tend to more than likely kind of flock to you a bit because they like feeling listened to, supported, like you're on their side, you're working toward a common goal. And again, having that playfulness and not being too serious or intimidating, you know, then everybody ideally achieves and we have growth. So that is really cool that we got this card. For the 9th question, how am I brave? And we have the 2 of Cups. I like that this card shows these cats drinking wine and they're looking very intensely at each other. They even have a bottle, so they mean it. They are going to drink that little bottle of wine, and there's clouds on either side of them, so they're not really sure how this time together is going to pan out. Is this going to be a quick relationship where it's going to fizzle out, or is it going to like last? But with the 2 of Cups, you have that interaction, right? We have new friendships, relationships. This could be starting off with a new job where each person sees value in the other person, even though neither party knows if it's going to end well or not. But it seems like a good idea at the time. And what they've done is from the grapes, from our 9 of Pentacles, they've made some wine and they're hanging out. So see, we've got some progression here and we've got that really intense, meaningful eye contact, and they're just simply sitting there being present, right? So Sasha Graham asked, how am I brave? And that would be, don't be afraid to talk to people and get to know them and expand your social circle and try new things. Because that is the spice of life. It keeps things interesting, right? Do not be afraid of failing. you know. So what if you fail? You just get up and try again, you know. And then the last question would be, in what area of life do I need to calm down? And we have the Two of Pentacles. So just take that card in here. And so with this card, we have these two black cats. They're really pretty. And there is a pentagram between them, and there's some candles. So here I'm counting, each one of them has two candles. And above them, they've got a pentacle. And this is seen as a protective symbol. So we've got earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. So their two efforts are being combined. It gives me like a Three of Pentacle energy. Usually with the Two of Pentacles, we have a bit of a balancing act going on. But as far as Sasha's question, in what area of life do I need to calm down? Maybe it's about having various priorities and burning the candle at both ends. Have you guys heard of that saying before? We basically have a mirror image of each side of the card. We've got a black cat with two candles, right? And we have the pentacle here between them, but we have the one above their head. We don't have a mirror image. So what are our priorities in life? Are we looking to collaborate with somebody to accomplish what we want to do, using, say, the tools of the magician that we learned earlier on from the major arcana? That's the first person that the Fool encounters on their journey. Using these tools, what is one thing that we can work on, and what are small steps that we can do to manifest that intent and bring it to fruition? If we have too many things, say too many projects or endeavors, then you don't have the time, maybe not all the resources or even the energy to invest in making them all be successful. So it's being very particular and prioritizing about what you want to accomplish in life, you know. And with the two, I again think back to balance. We've got two scales here, guys. So how are we going to maintain balance? So I'm going to move the camera back up. I know I probably may have lost some people with the Amber Alert that came across the phone. I saw that. So I'm sure you guys had that too. But I think overall that this is a really fun, cool spread to do if you're trying to kind of figure out what your priorities are in life, or especially with all this Leo energy that we've been talking about lately. Well, you know, what's going on in your life? Where can you maybe tweak some things and get some help? What is something you want to manifest, you know? And how do you get there? What small steps do you get, or what do you take to reach that goal? So I really have enjoyed this spread. I love the spreads out of Sasha Graham's book. They're just like so much fun. So, as always, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I am always appreciative of your time and all that good stuff. And, of course, to my husband, I couldn't have picked a better guy because you've been so supportive of my small business and me reading tarot. And I just can't put into words, just you're the best. And I will talk to you guys later. So, I hope you have a safe and restful night. Bye.